they all go through this rite of passage moment where they think, I'm just checking, is it still a good time to start? Because I'm seeing quite a lot in the news about like dropshipping might be dying off and I don't know. And there's of course this level of uncertainty and nerves. I think if you didn't have that, it would be unusual. The big question for today. So is it too late to actually start dropshipping in today's day and age? It's a concern that many people have because it does hold a lot of people back, that they feel that, is it too late to get started with dropshipping? They feel like they may have missed the boat. That's something that I hear quite a lot. And they say, dropshipping was popular a few years ago, but haven't I missed the boat on that? Hasn't that died down now? Isn't that business model now over? Actions speak louder than words as well. So I've started a new store this year with the dropshipping business fulfilment model again. So not only do we talk about this, but we actively believe it. If I don't do this, will I look back and think, what would have happened if I had got started? Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked Podcast, where we unlock the secrets to high-ticket dropshipping and achieving financial freedom. I'm Lewis Smith, founder of Dropship Unlocked, and I'm joined by James Eardley, client success coach at Dropship Unlocked. Each episode, we'll be sharing our experiences and providing you with the tools you need to build a successful e-commerce empire of your own. From zero to owning £1 million online business, we'll help you achieve the ultimate freedom over your time, location, and financial future. And when we're not recording the podcast episodes or running our own e-commerce businesses, you'll find us helping people like you launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. To learn more about working with us, head over to dropshipunlocked.com/free. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to access your full potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. Today, we're addressing a burning question that I've heard many times, and it's all about whether it's too late to start dropshipping. Unfortunately, it is a cause of anxiety for a lot of people, and it holds a lot of people back when trying to start an e-commerce business. So we will need to tackle this today, and luckily, I'm joined with our in-house expert and founder of Dropship Unlocked, Lewis Smith. So Lewis, I'm sure you've also heard this question before. Yeah, this is a question I've heard for many years, and I'm sure we'll still continue to hear for many years as well. In fact, it's something that I've been talking about over the last few days with people at an event that I was at, and I think that it's a concern that many people have because it does hold a lot of people back, that they feel that, is it too late to get started with dropshipping? It's a reason that's held people back from starting in this business model because they feel like they may have missed the boat. That's something that I hear quite a lot, and they say, dropshipping was popular a few years ago, but haven't I missed the boat on that? Hasn't that died down now? Isn't that business model now over? And it's interesting because I know why they say it. And in today's episode, I really want to break that down and kind of demystify that, because the reality is if you're in that mindset, it's going to hold you back from achieving results that you could have otherwise achieved had you seen through that myth. And I had to run the other day at the train station to try and catch a train. When you look up at the board and you see, well, there's a train leaving in 2 minutes, and you think, I could run to platform 2, whatever it was, to try and catch it, which is at the other end of the station, or I could just wait for half an hour and catch the next one. But I ran to it, got on just as the doors were closing, and it was really satisfying, and I got on the train. But had I missed it, I don't think I'd have just said, well, I give up on trains for life. I missed the train, therefore that's it. Trains don't work. I've missed it, so I'll have to now pay £100 for a taxi. I would have just waited for the next train probably. So it's that mindset of like, just because you feel like you missed maybe a wave or a train or a time when it was popular, that doesn't mean that it will never come back around, especially when the model itself is fairly timeless. The product may go in waves of popularity, but there'll always be another wave coming. And so, I think that when you have that mindset shift, it's should I go into this now or have I missed the boat? It leaves them with the question in their mind of potential regret, wondering, if I don't do this, will I look back and think, what would have happened if I had got started? What would I miss out on? And what would I have missed out on? How could my life have been different if I had done that? And that's not an easy thing to shake. You might think that now and think, oh no, I don't think I'll regret it. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing and maybe I'll find another business model. But when you're listening to this podcast now, you're clearly interested in the model. And so if we're there showing you from the other side of this that, hey, we both started when people said that it's too late to get in, and yet somehow we are both up and running with it, I think it won't be an easy thing to shake. So don't put yourself in that position where you look back and regret this. It's it's a bit like when you're out for a run, and I was running the other day and had a like a little stone got into my trainer, and you're like, oh, it's fine, I'll just kind of keep running, and you're running, and eventually you realize, man, this is uncomfortable, I need to stop and take my shoe off and shake out this little stone. It's the same thing. It's that little kind of devil on your shoulder whispering in your ear, being like, you could have done it. You could, like, you chose this life because you decided not to go down that route. And I think that it's a difficult thing to ignore, but we'll dive in today and we'll look at some kind of factual hands-on reasons as to whether or not it is too late to start a dropshipping business, to hopefully help our listeners understand fully the context of that decision.
Brilliant. I think it's going to be really valuable today to go into all of these different details about today's market. Because I know when I started, which was only a few years ago, I know that when I was looking to start, videos were being suggested to me in YouTube about whether it's too late to start. And in the research for this episode, I was checking around to see who else has talked about whether it's too late. And I could see videos from 2019, 2020, talking about whether it was too late to start back then. And yet I got started really properly in 2021. And then just a few short years later now, got a thriving e-commerce business set up. So had I listened to that, I wouldn't have been able to be in the position I am now. But I can see how it is very easy to fall into that trap and to be blinded by different people's opinions. So definitely very key that we don't get blinded by what we see and what we read.
Yeah, it's also a clickbait title, isn't it? So you can see why they do it. And they say, dropshipping has stopped working, because then it gives people the fear that it's like a self-affirming belief that they thought, I knew it was dead. I knew that dropshipping had stopped working. So they click the video, and then ultimately in the video, that it's just a slight shift in model, and they try and teach you about a slightly different thing. But ultimately, the model itself has been around for many, many years and will continue to be around for years, which we'll go through in this episode.
I'm so glad I avoided those doubts and didn't listen to them and started taking action. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. So hopefully we can help more people as well to just take action and stop being blinded by these sort of doubts they've got in the back of their mind. So we'll start off with the basics, Lewis. So for our listeners who may be more new to this, what exactly is dropshipping?
Well, in a nutshell, dropshipping is a retail fulfillment method where the store, the retailer, us, don't have to keep the products that we sell in stock. So we don't have to have a warehouse full of stock. We don't have to load up our bedrooms full of cardboard boxes of stock. When you sell a product as a retailer, you purchase that item from a third party, so from a supplier or a wholesaler or a brand, whatever the various different names depending on who you deal with, and they will send out the product directly to the customer. So essentially, you as the retailer never see physically or have to handle the product. So the way I like to think of this is that we are kind of like the middlemen, but we have major advantages because we don't have to worry about inventory or warehousing or putting huge amounts of capital into stock that may not sell or may be problematic, may have quality issues. Essentially, it's like us becoming the bridge between the buyer, so the customer in the market, and the wholesaler or the supplier who want to manufacture or store the product, but they don't want to deal with customer service. They don't want to deal with phone support, customer emails, questions. They just want to send out products, as many as possible. So we become their route to market. And it's a business model that I chose because it gives me freedom to work from anywhere in the world without having to take massive upfront risks. When I first started, I wasn't in a position to do that. And so it's perfect for somebody in my position who wanted to create a lifestyle business, a location independent business where the world becomes your office and you can travel and work from just a laptop, but also a business where you have minimal baggage. And I mean that in both the physical and the mental sense as well. Now, I'm not carrying around lots of stock when I'm traveling the world, but also I'm traveling pretty light mentally as well. I'm not having to think about, okay, we've got a warehouse with all of this stock here. We've got a third-party fulfillment center here. Oh, we've got stock here that's been, sitting on the shelf causing us storage fees, but is not selling. Like, don't have to think about that. We just have to think about, well, let's market more of the products. Let's run ads to them. And then when we have the money through from the customer, same day, we can have the supplier send out the product, and the whole thing can run automated eventually so that you don't really even have to think too much about it. And I used the home turf advantage business model that we now teach inside the Dropship Unlocked program to allow my wife and I to leave our 9-to-5 corporate jobs and go and run my businesses from a laptop on the other side of the world. And we spent time living in Bali, in Thailand, as I said, in Vietnam, in Mexico, all whilst running the businesses totally online.
There's no doubt dropshipping is a brilliant fulfillment method. And essentially when people say, is it too late to start dropshipping now? Because dropshipping is just a type of fulfillment, I feel like people are actually trying to say that, is it too late to start a business now? And of course, it's never too late to start a business because businesses are being started all the time. So just think of dropshipping as a type of business where it's the fulfillment method that you use to get products to a customer. As simple as that. And that is never going to go away. That's going to be an evergreen fulfillment method that's here to stay.
Exactly. And people often would think, aren't all the good niches taken though? Like, hasn't this business model become saturated? And that's like saying, hasn't the train left the station? I missed it, and assuming that there's only one train, right? It doesn't take into consideration there will always be more trains coming. And so the home turf advantage model that we teach gives people the research to be able to determine which train is about to leave the station, right? So it's like having a train timetable where you can look at, okay, well, which train is leaving? Let me get on the one that's about to leave that suits me. It's the station itself will remain there. The business model will remain intact. Which products or markets you sell might change over time. But as long as you have a research system in a very systematic way that allows you to make a data-driven decision based on which business you decide to go into or which market you decide to serve, then it doesn't really matter, because you're confident in the model that will continue to exist. You might just adapt what you're selling from, depending on whether you join the market in 2019 or if you join the market in 2023. So yeah, we take you through the whole thing of like what's selling now, where you source those products from, how you find UK suppliers with those products, how you sign them, what you say to them, contracts, how you run ads, how you build your website, and then how you outsource and automate the whole thing. So yeah, really it's, I think, relinquishing that fixed mindset of I've missed the train will unleash your potential and make you feel so much more free about just going and creating a business like this.
I love this concept of a train because I think it shows that dropshipping is our vehicle to get to a destination that we're all after. So the destination that we all really want is that freedom to be where we want, work on where we want, with whoever we want. But to get there, we need to get a vehicle. And the vehicle that we are using to achieve that is dropshipping. So we're going to catch that train, and that's waiting for people to go to that destination of the independence, the location freedom that we're looking for. So when did dropshipping really start to take off? And what has the journey been like up until now?
Well, interestingly, people think that dropshipping really took off when the term dropshipping really took off. And that was around kind of like the rise of Shopify and eBay around kind of mid-2010 era. But the reality is the business fulfillment method of dropshipping has been around for decades, like since the 1960s or 70s, with companies in the US like JCPenney and Sears using like mail order companies where you would order something through the mail and it would be from a company like that, but the item itself would be dispatched directly from the supplier, right? So to our UK listeners, and maybe slightly older UK listeners, such as myself, might remember the days prior to the internet where you had to order something through an Argos catalogue, right? So if this is before even the internet was around, if you opened up the Argos catalogue, we will remember that, and you ordered, say, a sofa, right, or a huge dining room table, do you think that Argos had hundreds of those sofas on their shelves in a warehouse? Or do you think that maybe when you ordered it, Argos would then have an agreement that the supplier of that sofa dispatched it directly to you? So you can see that dropshipping was there, but Argos weren't considered a dropshipper. They weren't some hypey, flash-in-a-pan business model that were using dropshipping and then would be gone tomorrow because they moved on to selling the next thing. They adapted, they kept selling new and different trending products over time, but the model that they were doing it through wasn't their focus. See what I mean? So I think people think, oh, I'm going to run a dropshipping business. Forget the term dropshipping. You're going to build a business, an e-commerce business. If your model of fulfilling those orders is dropshipping, well, that's just part of your business strategy that's timeless, because there will always be suppliers there who want to focus on promoting and creating products, but not marketing them, not dealing with customer inquiries, not having a team that answer the phones or do emails and things like that. Instead, they just want to be sending out the products because they have a nice, simple, productized system that they can do. And I think ever since it rose to popularity through YouTube and Shopify and eBay and the real rise and the boom of the internet, people have feared that it's this gold rush that you need to get in on now, otherwise you'll miss the boat. And with certain types of dropshipping, that was true. The concept of dropshipping cheap trending products from AliExpress in China, there was a period in time where customers didn't realize that the Instagram ad for, some widget that they were clicking was actually someone dropshipping it from AliExpress in China, and it was going to take 30 days to get to them, or it was going to have to pay some tax bill that would then, get stuck at the border. And when it arrived, it would be in a crumpled up, low quality package, and it would just be a disappointing experience. So that model was a little bit fixed in time because it was a bit of a novelty concept that soon wore out. But with this, there will be products that you buy on a monthly basis, I imagine, that are probably dropshipped, but the retailer don't consider themselves a dropshipper. So I think it's just that a mindset shift. And the model that we teach, the home turf advantage model at Dropship Unlocked, is where we work with reputable UK-based suppliers. We deliver to UK customers, and so you could apply that in any country. And when I first started, I remember that people were saying to me that it was too late to start back then. So there'll always be people asking that question, planting that seed of doubt. I was even in a taxi the other day and chatting to the driver, and he was asking what I did, and I was explaining about it, and that we run these e-commerce stores using dropshipping. And he had this objection. He said, but why would suppliers want to work with you? Why wouldn't they sell directly? Like, what hasn't that whole thing kind of passed by? They would just surely sell directly. And I just explained to him that the suppliers we work with, their route to market has and always will be through their network of retailers, because they don't want to manage all the customer service. They don't want the emails, the orders, the questions, the website management, running ads. Like, that's a lot to take on for some more traditional suppliers who just want to focus on high quality products and getting them out there. So when we come along as retailers, we are the perfect answer to their problem, right? We are the solution to that. So we can take all of that off their plate for them, just send them money all day long for orders that they send out, and they can just focus on keeping their products amazing and getting them shipped out to customers quickly. So I think you can understand when you look at it like that, why it works and why it will continue to work for many years to come.
You can have some great conversations with taxi drivers, and hopefully you've managed to persuade him and win him round with that conversation. Perhaps he's listening now and he's got a Shopify order coming through while he's driving his taxi around. We never know. But clearly just illustrates the point that sometimes it's the first thing that comes to mind about reasons why it won't work. But as soon as you delve into it a bit more and go into the nuance that this podcast allows, then we can start to delve into the question and work out really what's going on. So good to have that context around what's been happening over the last few years, which brings us to the big question for today. So is it too late to actually start dropshipping in today's day and age?
Well, if we look at the reason why people might think that it's too late to begin dropshipping, if you dive a level deeper than that, then it comes down to competition. People are fearful that they've missed the boat or that they are joining the party too late because there's now too much competition there, right? So it's true that competition has increased across the market. Of course, there are more competitors. However, there's also more demand because the internet and the adoption of online shopping has increased as well. But I think even if that hadn't happened, remember that competition exists because there's demand. Otherwise, none of the competitors would be in business. So the way that I like to think about this, which I think frees you up again, I like to kind of adopt these mental models that allow you to think in abundance and not be limited by scarcity-based beliefs. For competition to exist in a market, there must be a lot of demand for those products. So I was at an outdoor food market recently, one of those things where you've got all the food trucks and food stalls. There's probably 20 different food stalls there. And I was walking through and kind of looking at how all of them were doing. And there were a few people ordering from all of them, right? So there was plenty of demand and there was lots of supply as well. But one or two of those food trucks had like a queue of maybe 6 or 7 people at them. And so amidst that competition, there were so much competition, they had stood out. They had made a unique selling point because they had amazing food, great menu, or even because they had a queue. And so people thought, hey, that's popular. I want to go and join that queue because other people must know something that I don't know. What you could argue what it would be, but they were attracting a disproportionate level of demand based on the competition because they'd done something to stand out. So do you think that any of those food trucks the owners of those food trucks, the morning before that food market began, said to themselves, unless we go there today and get 100% of the customers, we're not going. Do you think they said, it's too competitive at that food market, so we're just not going to go? Or did they say, well, there's clearly demand there. What can we do to add more value, to stand out, to attract a disproportionate slice of that market? Because the key is you find areas where there's lots of demand, and then you just go and differentiate your offer, right? And this is what we see some of our members within the Dropship Unlocked program do best by doing. And it's where they enter a market that might be quite busy, it might be quite competitive, but they go into it not viewing it as a scarcity play where they think, my slice is only going to be tiny because it's so competitive. Instead, they think, well, how do I grow the market? How do I bring more people into the market that maybe weren't even in there originally looking for those products? And how do I attract a wider share of that market than maybe I would get if I just showed in and did the bare minimum, right? So that comes down to adding value to customers, and it's how they can make better offers, whether that be things like product bundles, whether they have better free gifts that they can give to customers that causes customers to choose them over their competitor. If that's a digital download, if you don't want to give away another physical product gift, you can give some kind of like ebook or buyer's guide or something. Even down to like user experience, having easier to navigate websites or mobile optimized websites when the rest of your competitors are all in the prehistoric desktop, laptop website designed age. You come in with a mobile first, ultra fast loading website. So I think my advice to listeners who are thinking, is it too late? Don't be discouraged by the competition, which is the underlying worry if you're thinking that you might be too late to it. Instead, use that competition and use that demand as a motivator for you to go into that market and be the food truck that has the queue of 7 people by it, rather than the one that's just getting a few sales here and there. Because either way, you can make a full-time business, but you can make a booming business if you go into a busy market and stand out.
It's really reassuring to hear that. And it's the way you view competition. You can decide how you view it. It doesn't all have to be doom and gloom. You can think about it in other ways, which is Lewis has just explained. And also, actions speak louder than words as well. So I've started a new store this year with the dropshipping business fulfilment model again. So not only do we talk about this, but we actively believe it, and we're starting new stores ourselves today. So clearly, I don't think it's too late, and I don't think people listening in should either. And hopefully that illustrates the point.
That's a really good point. And let me ask you then, so you've started a store this year, 2023. So many people saying dropshipping is dead, it died off, it was a 2017 thing. Are you making sales with the store you've just started?
Already, it's already profitable. It's only been a few months actually going now, but already it's profitable in 2023. And we've gone into markets, I'm sure some people might suggest that there's lots of competition or too competitive, but it doesn't stop me, because I know that we can add more value to that market and we can have our own unique spin on certain ways we do things. And I know that without going into it with a scarcity mindset, instead of an abundance mindset and controlling things that I can control, I can make that business a real success in today's day and age and in any year moving forward. So Lewis, what specific opportunities do exist in today's dropshipping market?
There are so many new opportunities emerging and will continue to emerge. So I think our role as entrepreneurs, as business owners, needs to be keeping at the forefront of these things and making sure that we're adopting these new technologies to maintain relevance in an ever-changing world. So over the last few years, because of what happened in the world, the huge events that shook up the world, people's habits fundamentally changed forever, in that they made a transition. People who would not have ordinarily purchased some things online were forced to. And now when they realized how easy it was, they're not going back, right? So this is why shopping habits have changed dramatically forever. More people are now buying online than ever. So that in itself is just an opportunity right there. Just the size of the overall market that it has expanded means that there's now more demand, more opportunity for us as e-commerce sellers. But then within the market itself, have also been huge technological advancements. So for example, we've now got some incredible AI tools that can help us as retailers with things like ad copy, ad creative, image generation, audio generation, website performance, customer service. Like the list is endless, And so I think there are always two ways that you can look at these things. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of a person, right? These changes are happening. And so it's like a changing tide in the sea. You can either deny it and just dig your heels in and say, nope, I'm not changing, like the old incumbent retailers who aren't evolving, who will end up being swept out to sea by the tide, right? Because they're going to go against it. They're going to fight against nature and the evolving market. Or you're a glass half full person. You adapt it, and you adapt your business to the rising tide, to the changes, and you ride the wave. You benefit from the tide. And so that momentum that it gives you allows you to really bolster your business and to thrive in the changing market conditions. So I think the overarching practical advice to anybody listening right now who's thinking, but there's so much change happening, like how do I do it? Embrace that change, learn about it. Get around a community who are teaching and talking about this stuff and implementing it every day. That will give you the edge over the old retailers who are refusing to adopt and adapt, and you will become relevant and you will start to steal market share.
Hopefully people take that on board and can take that away with them after listening to today's episode. But looking forward to the future now. So I want to talk about what the future is for dropshipping. Can we really expect it to stick around for the long run?
Yeah, so it's a hard one to predict the old future because there are so many different factors, but there are very strong indications that dropshipping isn't going anywhere anytime soon as a business model. Because remember, dropshipping itself is an order fulfillment method or model, and it's used by huge proportions of the retail business online. And even the offline retail business, as I mentioned, through things like Argos or Tesco or Homemade, like a lot of these big companies, a part of their fulfillment model is dropshipping. They might not be 100% dropshippers, but they use it for larger high-ticket items that it wouldn't be economical for them to purchase in bulk and keep in stock. So same reasons we use it for, right? But as long as there are innovative products and new products coming out and an increasing demand for online shopping, then there will always be room for dropshipping. I'd encourage our listeners to strategize for long-term success, because I remember when I first launched my own dropshipping brands, being worried about whether I could really grow them to a point where they held value, where they became an asset that I could one day go on to sell. And it's the same with our members joining today, the same with the ones that joined a few months ago. They all go through this rite of passage moment where they think, I'm just checking, is it still a good time to start? Because I'm seeing quite a lot in the news about like dropshipping might be dying off and I don't know. And there's, of course, this level of uncertainty and nerves. I think if you didn't have that, it would be unusual. But letting that stop you steals away the opportunity that if you started today, in 2 or 3 years' time, you could be looking back and have built a business that's based on ever increasing demand that maybe at that point has like an asset value of, say, £500,000 that you could sell and maybe transition to a different business if you wanted to. Maybe then you start private labeling and wholesaling and bringing in stock yourself if you want to, or you just continue to become a huge dropshipping behemoth brand like Wayfair, who just use the dropshipping fulfillment model pretty much, and do it that way as well. So just remember that the markets may change, consumer demand may change, but as long as there are products being made and customers wanting to buy those products, then carving out your niche market through dropshipping and adding value is going to be a viable business model.
That's great advice, a great perspective to have. So something else I want to add is no matter what the market landscape is like in the future, something that will always remain consistent is investing in yourself. And if you invest in yourself and improve your skills, improve your mindset, that's going to be able to roll with anything that happens in the landscape moving forward. So an investment in yourself is always an investment that you'll have a high return on investment from. Now, for those listening who might be looking to take the plunge and grow an e-commerce business, are there any tips you'd give for people starting a dropshipping business in the current climate?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the climate is ever evolving, you have to do your research before going into a market. We're talking in this episode about dropshipping as a fulfillment model not going anywhere, but that doesn't mean that the markets that you could potentially sell within are not changing. These are an ever-evolving landscape. So it's critical to do your research, to understand the market, the competition, the supplier availability, and the potential problematic niches and industries that we'd advise not going into. And most importantly, understanding your customer and your customer's buying power. The second would be to really focus on customer service, because in my experience, that's the real differentiator. That's the thing that if you can get a happy customer who not only brings repeat business and keeps coming back to buy more products, but also bring referrals. And if you can kind of gamify that system, then that can supercharge your business and really reduce your acquisition cost and your ad cost as well. And lastly, just use the tools that are available. There are so many different software options and app options now that can allow you to streamline your business, step back, really create a lifestyle business that you can automate, systematize, and just step back from and enjoy your lifestyle again, so that you have that balance that a lot of us created these businesses in the first place for. I think that's the dream, right? If you can get it to that point where you can truly step back from it and have it just as a purely automated passive income source, that's incredible. And you can get it to that point for sure.
Absolutely. I've been able to bring down my involvement with my dropshipping businesses right down to just a few hours a week. And that's because we've got so many opportunities in today's day and age to be able to automate things and outsource things, and also just speed up the process of everything using the recent rise in AI. It's incredible, really, the opportunities that we have now that weren't around just 2-3 years ago. And we can really capitalize on that with these lifestyle businesses that we're growing. Also, to your point about focusing on happy customers, that's how we can create a real long-term brand. And I know the way that I view my dropshipping businesses is with a real long time horizon, knowing that I want these businesses to outlast me. So when I go on to sell them, they'll still be going in years to come, because I look at it really for the long term. I think what's key in all of this, when people consider whether it's too late to start, is actually their mindset that is really the driving force in what's telling them that it might be too late. More important than what they see on the outside, it's actually what they're telling to themselves on the inside in their own minds about whether it's too late to start. So how important do you think it is for people to think about their mindset and whether they think that an opportunity that's coming around is too late? How much do you think that's to do with mindset?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much 100% to do with mindset, because we can research the market to ensure that we know that there's demand there and that there's an acceptable level or a comfortable level of competition that we're not fearful of. So I do think that, as assuming you've done the foundational research correctly, which is all part of our initial week 2 of our program, then really it's just mindset holding you back. There's this late fallacy, late to the party, missed the boat, missed the train, whatever, that people are held back from. And I think often the idea of being too late is just a mental barrier. That's all it is, because successful entrepreneurs view the market through the lens of possibilities and not through the limitations that could be there. They're not focused on the limitations. Instead, they're looking at the upside, which far outweighs the downside or the risk of it not working, because they can always adapt to make it work. So there's always room for innovation, fresh perspectives, no matter when you start in a business. And the second point ties into the first, and that is that the markets are always evolving. So don't be concerned about saturation. Think about evolution within the markets, because the business model itself is sound and will continue to be, but the markets are evolving. It's like the rising tide. Are there trends that are happening that you could ride the wave of to ensure that you're building a business based on a sustainably rising trend and not something that's dying out? Talking about being the mobile optimized brand, talking about selling products that are in increasing demand. So our job as entrepreneurs is to identify these opportunities, and instead of worrying about being late to the party, to execute on them and actually act on those opportunities to do something about them. And then the final one is having that mindset shift away from this concept of it being a zero-sum game. So not worrying about, just because I win in business means that you have to lose, or that, because we win, someone else out there has to lose, because what we take from a market share has to be someone else's loss. That's not the case, because the market itself can be expanding. We can have an impact on expanding and growing the market and bringing new potential customers and sales into that market. So I think looking about it from that perspective enables new entrants like ourselves the ability to think in abundance and not be held back by our own fear or limiting beliefs about scarcity and worry about competition.
Yeah, that's great advice, Lewis. I think people hopefully will take away from this that it's up to you how you view whether things are too late or not. And hopefully with the abundance mindset, you can see that there's an abundance of opportunity out there, and you don't need to wait for somebody else to lose before you can win. That's absolutely not the case. So of course there is nuance to this idea whether it's too late. I think what's really important if people are going to start dropshipping is that they have their numbers right. They know what they need to see in terms of their return on ad spend. And also they need to pick the right products that are in demand right now for them to sell. So obviously we go through that in the Dropship Unlocked program. Week 5 is all about knowing your numbers when you start and set up a marketing campaign. And week 2 is all about choosing the right products in the first place that we can see with data will definitely succeed. So it is important. I think a lot of people that talk about whether it's too late are people that have just dabbled and haven't really got into it with any level of conviction or any level of research before getting started. And they're the people that then tell you that it's too late. In fact, if we get started with the right preparation and take the right steps and know our numbers, then we'll be the ones that succeed, and they can go on to tell everyone else that there's a mountain of opportunity surrounding dropshipping and starting an e-commerce business. So before we answer a question from a listener, Lewis, do you have any final words for listeners about this important topic about whether it's too late to start?
Just that it's a natural thing to think that you've missed the boat. So anybody who's thinking that at the moment, like I heard about this business model a few years ago, or I dabbled in it and it didn't work, try to remove yourself from that thought. Recognize that thought as being valid and something that many, many people have, and then realize why it's actually a myth and is holding you back, because that will allow you to move on and not have that fearful regret of looking back and thinking, I wonder if I had have given it another shot, using a proven strategy, working with domestic suppliers, selling higher profit items, working with suppliers that can offer next day delivery. How would that have worked? You don't want to be the guy who's running with the stone in your shoe that you can't get rid of, that you can't shake that regret of not having tried, right? So I think that if you are thinking, I don't know if it's the right time to start, just rest assured there is no right time to start. There will never be a right time to start. So the right time, really, as right a time as can be, is now. Because if you're passionate about the business model, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're ready to learn and you're excited about the transformation in lifestyle that a business like this can provide you, the freedom to travel, to have complete control and autonomy over your time, to not have to have a load of stock, to not have to answer to anybody, and be able to run your business from just your laptop or even just your phone eventually, then you're never too late, because you can get started whenever you're ready to go. The world of e-commerce and dropshipping is always evolving, as you said. So there are always new trends, new niches, new opportunities. The key is not trying to pick a product that's a short-term trend. The key is picking a market that is long-term, sustainable, and using the new technology, the AI, the new software, the apps that are emerging to ensure that we remain at the forefront of the technological advancement of this industry, whilst selling products that will continue to remain in demand for many, many years to come. That's how you build a long-term brand, and how you win in a market, by adding more value to products, or to a market with products that you know will remain in demand. And if you're on the fence about this, just remember this: every day that you wait is a day that you're not moving closer to your goals. So if you are ready to take action and you just want to start your dropshipping journey and you want to do it the right way the first time, we're here to help. Just head over to dropshipunlocked.com/free, where we've put together a comprehensive free training that will guide you through the process of starting your own dropshipping business. So there's no need to navigate these waters alone. Let us help you unlock your potential in the world of e-commerce and take that exciting first step. We can't wait to see you succeed once you're up and running. Just a quick heads up, if you'd like to share your questions, stories, successes, or challenges, you can email us directly at podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. And you never know, we might even feature you on the next podcast episode.
Also, if you want access to today's show notes or any of the resources we've mentioned in the episode today, then head over to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast. We also have a small favour to ask of you. If you enjoyed the show so far, if you could take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice.
You wouldn't believe how much your reviews help us grow the podcast. We'll even read out some of our favourites on the next episode. So if you want to be featured on the show, please do go ahead and leave us a review today. Thanks so much for your support. We really couldn't do it without you, and we absolutely love hearing what you think of the podcast.
So hopefully we've helped people today overcome that idea that it's too late to start dropshipping. And we're going to hopefully help more people now by answering this question that we've recently received from a listener. And this question has come in from James. So remember, to get your questions in, all you need to do is email podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. Ask us anything that's on your mind about dropshipping, whether you want to start or whether you've already started and you have questions that you'd like to ask us, and we will be answering it on an episode coming up. So James has asked, I plan to market to affluent areas such as Cheshire as I feel that sort of demographic fits my niche. And I plan to only sell the high-end products within my niche. Would you say that it's ever the case where the quality of the product outweighs the quantity of the products that you sell? And therefore, should you focus around selling the high-end products only to improve the overall look and feel of the store?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So thanks for sending that one in. And we love hearing from your questions. So if you have any questions like that, then please do send them in. We love to answer them. But I think in answer to that, I would not recommend that you target a specific geographical area within the country or the countries that you're selling to. So instead, I'd set up the campaign to target the whole area that you deliver to. So for in our case, it might be the UK, it might be the UK and Ireland, and let Google find the customers that are ready to buy. Let Google Ads serve the customers, because remember, the way that we're marketing the products using the home turf advantage model is we're serving the existing demand. So if we just said, we're only selling products to Cheshire, well, if there was a super wealthy customer based in Southampton or Devon or Edinburgh, they wouldn't even see the product if we were only targeting a specific geographical area. So I think at this point, you almost need to try to detach your own subconscious assumptions and biases about like where you think the wealth is centralized and located out of it, and just let the data drive you. And it's a difficult thing to do because we've all got these biases and we all think that we know where the sales are going to come from. But I promise you, from personal experience, you'll be shocked when you open up the market to everywhere that you deliver to. You'll start seeing sales coming in from all over the place, and you realize, oh wow, it's not as concentrated as I thought it was. So yeah, I think by telling Google where to target, you're limiting its potential to find the best customers, because you're just isolating a certain place. But the second part to that is that part of what we teach with the home turf advantage is that by adding new products and new suppliers constantly to your store, that's one of the highest return on investment activities that you can do, because by adding more products, you're essentially stocking the shelves of your shop without actually having to have a warehouse or a shop to stock shelves, because it's all digital, right? So you get to benefit from essentially owning this huge digital shop where you can have thousands of products on the shelves, and your marketing campaigns do the finding the right customer for the right product for you. So each of those products you upload, say you had products from a supplier that were £300, ones that were £700 and ones that were £1,000. If you only uploaded the £1,000, you might get one sale per day. But if you had uploaded the £300 ones, and say you only made £100 in profit on one of those sales at a 30% margin, Google might have found that the £300 product converted higher and that it could sell more of those per day to customers all around the UK. So you might end up making 5 sales of the £300 product, making you an extra £500 in profit per day, rather than maybe just selling one of the £1,000 products, right? So it's just trying again to remove your assumptions and biases and just allow the data to tell you what to do. Allow your marketing campaigns to dictate what to do. We set our target return on ad spend. We tell Google what we need in terms of a return on ad spend to make sure we hit our target return on ad spend based on our profit margins, and just allow the market to tell you what they want and where they want it in terms of where they live, where you should send it to. And so your job then is to just serve that demand and create more like it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Lewis. I think it's a great question. I'm glad you've asked, because a lot of people get stuck in trying to make their website look as aesthetically pleasing as possible and forgetting that we're creating our business for profit and to optimize our ad campaigns. That's much more important than optimizing our website. A lot of people won't search around a website. They'll just go straight to the product page and buy. So if you can add more products that are winners and people want to buy, then you'll win in the long term, instead of focusing on your website and how aesthetically pleasing that is. So thank you, Lewis, for your answer to that one. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Now let's take a moment to highlight a listener review, and a big thank you to John McNally for leaving this review. So I'll read out what John said. So John said, absolutely fantastic program. So he must be a member of the Dropship Unlocked program. He went on to say, I can't speak highly enough of the guys at Dropship Unlocked. The methodical training put together is absolutely on the money, and the twice weekly webinars, predominantly run by James, are phenomenal. I don't think there has been a question or problem that's been asked yet that these guys don't have the answer to. The only question you have to ask yourself is, do you want this to work? Because the team at Dropship Unlocked certainly stick by their side of the deal.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your review, John. It means so much to us, and we're really happy to hear that you're enjoying not only the podcast episodes, but also the Dropship Unlocked program. So keep up the great work. We can't wait to feature your success on the podcast soon. So please keep us posted inside our private community. Would you like to hear your review read out on the podcast? If so, leave us a rating and a review on whichever platform you're tuning into us today from, or a YouTube comment if you're watching us on YouTube. And remember that you could have a big impact on someone else's life. So if there's someone else in your life who's been mulling over the idea of starting their own venture, why not share this episode with them? Send it to them in a text or share it with them on social media, because it could just provide that final spark of motivation that they need to take the leap. So don't hesitate, distribute the knowledge and become part of their entrepreneurial story.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you found today's episode useful and inspiring.
Remember, if you're ready to take the next step towards creating your own high-ticket dropshipping business, our step-by-step mentorship program can help. Just head to dropshipunlocked.com/free to learn more and get started on your own journey to financial independence.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss another episode, and leave us a review if you've enjoyed what you hear today. We love hearing from our listeners, and we'll even read out some reviews on the next episode.
And finally, thanks for choosing to spend your time with us today. We really appreciate you, and we'll be back soon with more valuable insights and tips on high-ticket dropshipping.